I just want to let you know that you are exactly where you're meant to be right now. And I mean that in the physical sense of being here at career camp. And give yourselves a pat on the back for being here today, because there's plenty of people out there right now that could really use being here, and they're not here. Okay? And so we have to remind ourselves that it's those little things that we do that are actually pretty big. And sometimes we forget that in the monotony of the day-to-day lives that we live. And we forget that when things get overwhelming or stressful, or when we're unemployed or underemployed, or we've got a lot of people around us that are dealing with career transitions or career changes. It's really easy to kind of get stuck in the negativity of it and the concerns and the anxiety of it. And so I encourage you throughout your days and your weeks to give yourself permission to just stop and just be with yourself and your breath. And if you find that there's times in your life when your breath feels really tight, it probably is. When you find times in your life when you're feeling overly anxious or stressed, you're probably holding your breath. So I encourage you to actually get in touch with paying attention to your breath and your breathing, and giving yourself permission throughout the weeks to do that. It only takes a couple minutes. You can be sitting anywhere. We just did it and it only took 2 minutes. Okay? One of the things that I really wanted to talk about today is the breath, because in the mind of a champion, and when I say champion, I'm thinking about both the literal athletes that we all know out there, the Olympian gold medalists, the LA marathon runners from last weekend, right? Any of the NBA stars. But I'm also talking about how do you develop and cultivate that champion and that champion mindset in your own self. And one of the ways that we do that is by gaining clarity. And so by being clear and by getting connected, we get a better understanding of really what it is that we want in our lives. And when we're clear about what it is that we want, then we can ask for it. Okay? A lot of times what I hear, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard this, and we've all done it, and I've done it too, running around going, well, why isn't this happening for me? I'm trying to get this job, or I'm trying to make this change, or get this promotion, or go to school, or study this thing, and why is it not happening for me? But maybe we aren't being clear about really what it is that we're wanting. And maybe we're not being clear because we haven't exactly figured it out yet. And so hopefully that's part of why you guys are here today. So I want us to start with, or continue with, I should say, really setting an intention right now together in this room for what we want this day to be. As Doug said in the intro today, this is really all about you guys. This is really all about all of us. That's really why we wanted to do this as an unconference as opposed to a conference. Because we want you to tell us, and we want to all be able to learn from each other all the wisdom that we have in this space today. We all have wisdom to share. And so it's a matter of really tapping into that and reminding ourselves that it's in there. All you need, you already know. Okay? And what we want to do today is find that and unveil some of that. Okay? So if you have a notepad and a pen, great. If you don't, I can pass out note cards. And I just want you to think about maybe 2 or 3 things that you really intend to do today. 2 or 3 things you really intend to get out of today. And it's not a matter of hoping that something happens to come your way, but what are you going to actually intentionally do to make those things happen? And just raise your hand if you need a note card or a pen. Bless you. I'm going to give you a few minutes to write that down. And as you finish, if you can just kind of look up or put your pen down, give me some kind of clue that you're done, that would be great. Finishing up. What I want you to do is I want you to turn to your left or your right to a partner and just share a couple of those things you just came up with. Don't be shy. Meet somebody new.
An idea. Is that something you're doing?
Well, it's just recent. I've been involved
Maybe get him.
I think that policy. And now it's Sure. What's your name is Judy. I'm Patrick.
And I wanted to share a couple of good friends of mine actually ran the LA Marathon today, or last weekend, excuse me, and gave me the medal to wear today when I told them what I was talking about. So this is actually the marathon, medal for completing. And I thought, well, how appropriate is that? Because talking about the champion mind and actually having a medal of a champion that just finished a marathon, which I could never do, by the way. That's not my thing. But, it reminds us that when we actually put forth the effort, the energy, the training, the dedication, the time, the practice, these are all the things that it requires to actually make goals that athletes meet, right? And I think what we forget is that these are actually the same kind of things that it takes for any of us to meet any goals in life that we're trying to meet. So if you think about the job search or a career transition, right? It's easy to get stuck in the mundane of it. But the reality is that it's the getting up and going out there and doing your routine and having that routine that keeps us going and that actually ends up paying off. And it's the athletic training that says the same thing. They don't just wake up one day and decide, I guess I'll go run a marathon. Or I guess maybe I'll try out and see if I make it into the Olympics, right? I had the pleasure of actually hearing a couple of different athletes talk at a couple of different smaller events. And it's amazing to hear what they have to say because it's really very simple. Patience, time, dedication, clarity, knowing what you're seeking and giving yourself permission to fail and then get back up again. And so that's where a lot of us are right now. And that's why a lot of us are here right now. So I want to give you a couple of different clear points to leave with. Number one is focus, okay? So I'm calling that focus, clarity, being clear with yourself. And when we gain that focus, that's where a lot of the inner wisdom that each of us has illuminates. That's when we're actually able to find it. That's why we started with the breathing. That's why I like to bring in various yoga and breathing techniques into the work I do, actually, because I think that it's so valuable. And a lot of the athletes will tell you similar things. In fact, if any of you watched the Winter Olympics, anyone here? So if you watched them, you could see, I was just blown away at how many of them seemed to be doing some kind of prayer, meditation, or deep breathing right before they began. I mean, this is the mind-body connection that we are all talking about. And it is becoming more and more mainstream. There is a lot less of it that is shocking and surprising. And so we absolutely have to take that time to quiet our minds, because that is where we find the answers. Okay? I wanted to tell you a little story, actually. It's not my story, but I wanted to share the story. Dr. Judith Orloff did a book signing a couple of nights ago in Venice, and I had an opportunity to go and hear her talk. And this was her new edition of her book that she actually wrote several years ago. Anyone familiar with Judith? Read some of her stuff? Okay. So, have you read this book or parts of it? All right. So, some of you probably know this story already. And I'm just going to kind of summarize it because I don't want to, sit up here and read to you the whole time. But I'm going to tell you that this is a story about synchronicity and what I sometimes refer to as serendipity, serendipitous, what we would maybe call chance events, but I don't believe in chance. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And this is very much what she was saying. So it really spoke to me. So let's see here. I'm going to start. So she met a man by the name of Michael, and it was a very chance meeting. She didn't really feel like there was much of a connection. He really wasn't her type at all, she said. And yet she decided to say okay to a date with him. She figured, well, what have I got to lose? So she went on a date. And throughout the lunch or the coffee date, she actually ended up in this deep conversation with him about death. And in her inner mind, she was telling herself, she heard her inner voice saying, this is really strange. I don't even know this guy. And I'm talking to him about death and my beliefs about death and the afterlife and what happens and what I think about all these things. I don't even talk to my closest friends about this stuff. But she kind of just went with it because there was something in the universe telling her that this was exactly where she was meant to be, and this was exactly the conversation that was meant to happen, and it just came to her. She didn't seek it out, and so she knew that something about it was very serendipitous, and she needed to just kind of experience that and allow the universe to guide her. So that's what she did. And, the date ended, and it was a nice enough exchange, but, she really didn't think he was her type, so she didn't pursue anything and didn't hear from him, and so that was really the only, occurrence that they had to have any sort of interaction on a personal level. Well, a month passes, and she ends up finding out a friend calls her and tells her that Michael had been killed in a freak motorcycle accident, and that he had died on the Ventura Freeway. And for a moment, she was stunned, and she thought, Michael's dead? But then, it just seemed impossible to her, and he was young, and she thought, well, people like him get married, they have kids, he had his whole life ahead of him. And then she said that images of him haunted her, for the rest of her day and a couple of days to pass, even though she really barely knew this guy. She just had that one interaction with him. And then she thought about it, and she said to herself, there was something so offbeat about that conversation that we had over lunch, and yet there was some unconscious part of Michael that maybe had intuitively known somehow that he had this impending death coming, and maybe he just yearned to know everything about it. So he was asking her all these questions, and so she was just sharing. And she says, I feel like I was his messenger, and I didn't call upon myself for this. If anything, he called upon me, or the universe called upon me. And I thought about that story, and I thought, how powerful is that? Because at any moment, including today, right now, we have the effect to have so much of an influence on each other, in a positive way, in a negative way, and we get to choose that. And what a powerful experience to have, to be open to something that we weren't necessarily previously open to. She didn't normally sit around and have conversations about death with people she barely just met. But she tuned into herself, she got in touch with her inner voice, and she decided, there's something greater than me here going on right now, and I just need to accept that and understand that as best as I can. And actually in her book, she kind of goes into several other situations that occurred for her like that, and that's a lot of what has led her to the work she does. She's an intuitive psychiatrist, if you've ever heard of that combo. Very amazing woman. And I share this with you because one of the things that she was saying, which I very much believe, is that we all have that ability in us. And actually when we're born as kids, as babies, as children, we have that. We have that sort of natural, intuitive nature. And then somewhere along the line, it kind of gets buried. You know, sort of gets covered up, and we forget how to tap back into it, and we forget that a lot of that wisdom and that those answers that we want so badly, we have inside. So I wanted to tell you the second point. We got focus, be clear, right? So the next one is be present. Okay? The clearer we are and the more present we are in each moment, the more able we are to tap into our own intuition or inner wisdom, or as she calls, inner voice. And as you guys can see here, I've got my little note cards, but I try and kind of do my talks in such a way where I'm sort of reading the audience a little bit. So initially when I come in, I have my ideas of things I want to talk about, but I really want to do sort of what Judith is talking about, is sort of being in the moment, being present, and being here for what we're all here for today. So that's not only my mission or my goal, but for your goals to be heard as well. So if anyone does have any questions or comments you want to make, you can definitely raise your hand. I'm very open to that. The other thing I wanted to say is that another favorite artist of mine is Louise Hay. Anyone familiar with Louise Hay? So I'm a big fan of Louise Hay, and I use a lot of her inspirational, motivational cards in the work I do. And so I wrote one of them down today, which is, you do know what to do. You do know what to do. Sometimes we forget that we do know what to do, or we think that we need to give that power to somebody else. Well, I need to go to the doctor to tell me what I need to do about my health, and I need to go to a therapist to tell me what to do about my life, and I need to go to a career counselor to tell me what to do about my career, and I need to talk to my academic advisor because I hate this class I'm in. And the truth is that when we tap into our inner wisdom, we do know what to do. We do, and sometimes I'm not saying that all those helpful people aren't good to have in our lives, because they are. They create support, and that is a huge part of getting ourselves through these transitions. But a lot of times it's in those moments that you're sitting with that person, and I'm sure all of you have experienced this before, where suddenly the answer comes to you. It's like you almost just had to sit in the room with them, and then the answer just comes, and you go, oh. You know, and I think that's the favorite moment for them too. I can definitely say for me, I love that when I'm sitting across from a client and they have that moment, because I'm not trying to have that moment for them. I'm not trying to create that moment for them. I believe that we can create those moments in ourselves. And so to observe that is quite an honor, actually. So everything you need is within you. You do know what to do. And I'm just going to repeat that. And I use some of her quotes as mantras. So if you do have somebody, it doesn't have to be Louise Hay, but if you do have somebody that you really like and you think that they've got some really great messages that they share, then what you can do is you can actually write these down on little note cards. It can just be like this or half of this, and you can kind of hang it, in your bathroom or put it in your pocket for the day and have that be your mantra for the day. It can be really powerful just to kind of remind yourself of this, okay? So mine for today is everything that you need is within you, and you do know what to do. And I'm going to be kind of carrying that throughout today. So that's part of my intention. So a question I had is, how does the Olympic gold medalist get to the point of actually being an Olympic gold medalist? How do they get to that point? Anyone have any ideas or thoughts?
Yeah.
Practice. Yes, big one. Yeah.
Visualization.
Yes, visualization. Perseverance. I love that. Yeah.
Decide what it is you really want.
Decide what it is you really want. How powerful is that? Decide what it is you really want. Yeah.
Stay focused.
Stay focused.
Discipline.
Discipline. Okay. Yeah, in the back.
It's a burning desire.
I didn't hear that.
It's a burning desire.
A burning desire. Yes. So something in you that just like you have to do this. Like partly maybe a passion, right? Okay. Yeah.
Build a team around you that can enable you.
Build a team around you. So people who support what you're doing, people who understand your goal and support it and agree with it and are kind of there on the sidelines to cheer you through it. Yeah. Yeah.
Failure is not an option.
Failure is not an option. It's such an important one. And with the job search, same thing, right? Failure is not an option. It's not a matter of this is going to happen or it's not. It's a matter of when and how. That's all it is, right? You know, one of the things we're talking about is mind frame, right? We're talking about really how to get ourselves into a certain kind of mindset, a champion mindset, a clear mindset, deep breathing to bring in that mindset. But I was also talking about the mind-body connection, right? And one of the things that actually, a lot of Eastern medicine has talked about for years and years and years, and a lot of therapists and counselors and healers have talked about it, but now it's actually in the medical world, and psychiatrists and doctors are talking about, which is the mind-body connection. And there is so much research and proof now to show how our mindset and our attitude and our beliefs that we tell ourselves actually can create, improve, or change our physical health, right? And I don't want to, put anybody on the spot, but I can tell you personally that I know if I've had a really stressful day, or I'm going through a really stressful transition or time in my life, I'll get really bad migraines. And I'll be getting bad migraines for several days in a row, right? So then that's when I know, okay, something is off balance now. And I need to kind of stop, take a seat back, slow down, practice my breathing, maybe go to a yoga class, maybe go to church, whatever it is that works for you. But remembering that we're all human, so we're going to have those moments. It's not about being perfect all the time. It's about having that plan when your plan is not working, right? It's easy to have a plan and stay positive and excited and focused and all that stuff, when things are going well, right? When the runner has a really good run, it's easy to go for a run the next day. You had a good run. But how about you go on a 10-mile training run and it was awful? How do you get up and go on a run? Right? That's the champion mindset. Failure is not an option. So that's not considered a failure. That's just considered part of the journey. That's just part of the journey. Or, you know what? Maybe that was the universe's way of saying, hold on here. I think your ego is getting a little too big. Right? Maybe we needed to bring some humility in our lives. There's interesting things that happen in the world that aren't always things that we can speak about in language or in things that we can see or hear. There are interesting things that kind of occur in this other sort of layer that the universe has for us. And that's a lot of what Judith talks about as far as tapping into the intuitive mind and the inner wisdom. And that's what a lot of the champion mind is. Really tapping into that and understanding that you are perfect in your imperfection, but you're not going to accept failure. Right? So what a yin-yang balance that is. I'm not going to accept that I'm going to fail, but I'm not going to fail. Wait, how does that work? I'm going to fail, but I'm going to be okay with the fact that I failed, but I'm not going to look at it as a failure. Right? So changing our attitude. I want you to write that down as number 3. Okay? Attitude is everything. Attitude is everything. We wake up in the morning and we decide, do we want to have a good day or do we want to not have a good day? What kind of attitude am I going to come in here with today? Right? And if we want to be on the victim side of it, and if we want to decide that somebody in our life made us feel this way, or some situation in our life made us act this way, that's a choice. That's a choice to have that mindset. I would say the champion mindset doesn't include that, so that wouldn't be my advice. My advice would be that you have that choice. We all have that choice. So we wake up in the morning and we decide. And even with some of the decisions that we feel like are not decisions we make or that we have control over, we still do. There's still, in every little activity that takes place throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout our lives, every single thing that happens is a choice. Coming here today was a choice, right? Signing up for the event was a choice. Signing up and still coming was a choice. Choosing which room to go into is a choice. Deciding if you're going to be one of the presenters or not is a choice, especially if you didn't think you were going to when you first walked in today, right? That's a choice. These are all choices. And all these choices take us down different paths in our own journey. right? So sometimes you hear people say, and these might be some of your viewpoints, that, everything is just destined, right? The destiny has already been pathed for us. The path is out there, and we're just there to live it, right? I would challenge that thought, because what I think is that I do believe that there is some aspect of destiny, but I also believe that we make those choices that then shape our destiny. So I challenge you to think about that, okay? We make choices that shape our destiny. So what choices do you want to make? Even as you are meeting with people and interacting and mingling and all of that, right? Some people might have their elevator pitch, other people might not. Some people are very comfortable to talk about wherever they are in their career transition, other people may not be. That's a choice. What you choose to share, what you choose not to share, whether you brought business cards today or whether you didn't, right? These are all choices. And each step through today's talks and sessions and lunch and all of that are going to be opportunities for you. And the question I'm going to present to you is, what do you do with those opportunities? Do you grab hold of them and do something with them? Or do you just kind of enjoy the moment and it passes and you move on to the next task? Right? In fact, even the group of us that have kind of put together this day today, we had a choice at some point to not put this together. We had a choice at some point to meet each other but never follow up with it. So what I call these are serendipitous moments. We all have moments where things take place in our lives, and they weren't planned, right? You could be standing in a grocery store, right? You could be standing anywhere in a park, or you could be going to church, you could be at somebody's school. I mean, you could be doing almost any number of things, and you could come across that person who's going to help you land that next job. You could come across the person who's going to be your next love of your life. You never know. And so it's these opportunities that I say we turn into serendipitous moments, and we actually create real opportunity out of them, right? The meetings that occur are just the serendipity of it, the synchronicity, as Judith would say. The synchronicity of it is just one aspect, but then what you do with it is up to you. That's our choice, right? That's part of our choice, okay? Moving back to the idea of the mind-body connection. Anybody ever heard of the term ANTS? A-N-T-S? ANTS? Okay, so did you hear that because you saw the PBS special? Yeah?
No.
She said yes. You know?
No, I use it in therapy.
You use it in therapy. Okay, great. So you're familiar with Dr. Danielle Amen then, right? Okay. So for those of you who are not familiar, you want to share what it stands for?
Automatic negative thoughts.
Automatic negative thoughts. In case anyone didn't hear. Automatic negative thoughts. Okay? So Dr. Danielle Amen is a well-renowned doctor. He actually works in the Los Angeles area, and he recently did a PBS special. And he has a book called Change Your Brain and Change Your Life. Change your brain and change your life. Wow, how powerful is that? We just change our brain, we'll just change our life. But it really, he says, and he has all of his research to back it up, and all of his information and all of his case studies to show that really is what happens. We change our thinking, and the actual physical structure cellularly of our brain changes. So of course our life's going to change, right? How powerful is that? If we get up in the morning and we just decide, I'm going to have a good day today. I'm going to have a good day today. I don't care that there's all these other things that are not going well in the world. I'm going to have a good day today. And I'm going to be well with all of the interactions and individuals that I come into contact with today. Anyone ever heard of the children's book called The Smile That Went Around the World? This is a great I'm a big fan of children's books. And I think I was a children's book writer in another life, or maybe that's a future career coming, I don't know. But this is a really neat book where it's all about this little boy who basically smiles at this guy who's riding a bike down the street, and the guy on the bike smiles at this girl who's walking into the grocery store, and the girl in the grocery store smiles at someone who's heading to the airport, and the person heading to the airport gets on a plane and smiles at the person next to her. So the idea is that the smile literally traveled across the world to another country, and that it was just this one little kid's smile that had such an influence and an impact on all these people's lives, and he had no idea. And he was a little kid, so, part of him intuitively probably knew, but he couldn't put it into words. So as I wrap up today, I just want to remind you all that you have a choice today in being here. What you want to get out of the day, what you want to get out of the different talks and the different interactions and meetings that you have with everyone here. And that if nothing else, smile at each other today, stay open, be present, and try and gain some clarity about what it is that you want to get out of today so that as someone else is asking you what it is you're doing, you're maybe being a little more clearer in your own description of it. Does that make sense for everyone? I just wanted to say, for today's career camp, everyone has their intention, right, that they wrote down. Keep that with you. I want you to kind of check back, maybe like in the end of the day, just with yourself or maybe with, a friend or a new acquaintance that you meet today, and see how much of that you made happen. So we didn't just write that down just to have, a little random exercise, but really to have that be our intention for the day. And while all of you guys were chatting about that, the three of us up here in front were talking about it too. So we all have our intentions for the day. And, feel free to talk to the other people who are in the other sessions right now about that and ask them, maybe as you meet somebody new, what's your intention for today? What brought you here? What are you hoping to get out of this? Okay? Any last minute questions or comments? Yeah, either one of you.
What was the name of that children's book?
It's called The Smile That Went Around the World. Yeah.
What was Dr. Orloff's book name?
Oh, her book name. Thank you. Second Sight.
And Emotional Freedom.
She's written a couple other ones. Emotional Freedom is a bestseller of hers. But I was reading a story from Second Sight. And then I wanted to leave you guys with a handout today for those of you who want to take it. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't get your background. Are you?
Yes.
What is your career background? I didn't.
Good question.
Yeah. Well, I am a career counselor, and I also do spiritual counseling. I combine a lot of that into the work I do. I've worked in universities, in high schools. I've worked with foster care youth and group home children, and I've also worked with adults in transition, including parolees and adults with disabilities. So I kind of have a wide range. Yeah. Did you have a question? You raising your hand? No? Okay. I just want to close with a take home. Feel free to take one or not, no pressure either way. And there's a couple of sentence starters at the end before you leave out of here. Just take like a minute if you can. I have two sentence starters at the bottom. One says, I feel most balanced when. I just want you to answer that for yourself. And then the next one is 3 things I plan to do today at career camp. So it's sort of related to the intention, but really specific. 3 specific things you intend to do. Okay? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.